Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Tuesday, the Yom HaGadol, Yom HaKodesh, the holy day, Gimel Tamuz, the third day of Tamuz. And it is, as I mentioned yesterday, it's the day that, first of all, it is Chag HaGeula. The previous Rebbe's beginning of his redemption in 1927. And in our generation, of course, it is the day 30 years ago that we had a concealment of the Rebbe. We don't all get to see the Rebbe. I just came back from the Ohel, thousands and thousands of people, and you could see how the Rebbe's impact only keeps growing 30 years later. And I was sitting there among thousands of people, sitting there, came 6 o'clock in the morning, and sat down to study Maimer of the Rebbe, and then to daven. Right in front of me there was sitting a gentleman, didn't dress like a rabbi or anything, and I noticed he was writing names, writing to the Rebbe, asking brachas, and he was looking on his phone and getting messages and writing from the phone, writing the names. I didn't look to see what he's writing, obviously, but I did what I did. But in an hour later, I gave another glance at him and see him still writing pages and pages of names with names with people that requested to ask a bracha by the Rebbe. And I was thinking to myself, this is one person, not even a rabbi, at least didn't look like one, who is writing names of maybe hundreds of people who asked him to ask a bracha by the Rebbe on this holy day. How the impact and the connection, how people are connected with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe has an effect on Jews and non-Jews also, that are coming and asking the bracha, and the Rebbe is guiding us. Along with the bracha, the Rebbe is guiding us that we have a mission to fulfill. And we have to realize the Rebbe teaches us how it is. We need to understand how each and every one of us is a shliach. So you don't have to be a rabbi to get people to get people connected. Every person can do this. And so this is something which is beyond understanding. Rebbe explains the power of the soul that is beyond any human understanding. And today's lesson in the Tanya is also something that is beyond any human understanding. As we will learn that the Alter Rebbe tells us certain things we can only accept with faith, certain things with belief, the power of belief, power of faith, understanding reaches a certain level. And obviously we're talking about Hashem, godliness. Ultimately it's beyond understanding. So let's begin with tzedakah. Gedola tzedakah shemekareves es hageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. And today we are continuing in finishing chapter 9 in Shar, Yichud VeHaEmuna, where the Alter Rebbe explains the deep concept of the God's unity. So we spoke in the earlier chapters about the unity of Hashem with the world, how everything is one, and the world does not have a true existence other than Hashem making it existing. And chapter 8 and 9, the Alter Rebbe began to explain that the unity with God, the unity of God within Himself. And he quoted what the Maimonides says, that Hua Yadea Vahua Mada Vahua Yadua, that He's the known, He's the wisdom, and He's the knower. It's all one. In other words, you cannot separate Hashem and His wisdom. And the same thing the Alter Rebbe says is also God and His attributes. When we call Hashem compassionate, call Hashem wise, call Hashem merciful, all of this, it's not that Hashem has mercy. His attributes are not something outside of him. It is only that he's the source of mercy. But it's all one with Hashem. And this is a concept that the Rebbe says, the ultimate unity of Hashem with his attributes is beyond understanding. And all of this, having said that, about these levels, that Hashem is one with his wisdom, one with his emotive attributes, all of this is only in the level which comes after the tzimtzumim, after the contractions, when we reach the level of Atzilut. But when we're talking about the level of Hashem before, there you cannot even use the term, any term, because it's beyond all these terms. So let's see inside what the Alter Rebbe says. The Alter Rebbe is going to be talking about the different types of tzimtzumim that there was before what we call the world of Atzilut, which led to the coming the world of Atzilut, the world of emanation. Says the Alter Rebbe. So the Alter Rebbe now briefly explains the various tzimtzumim, the contractions that had to take place in order to enable the attribute of Atzilut to emanate from the infinite Ein Sof light. So he says, "Soy that tzimtzum ba'oir Ein Sof Baruch Hu." So this is a note that the Rebbe put in this chapter 9. It says the mystical principle of the tzimtzum of the Ein Sof. So before the tzimtzum, God's infinite manifestation was predominant. There was nothing else. Tzimtzum caused his capacity for limitations and finitude, which previously had been submerged within his infinite power, to be revealed. So he says this was the first tzimtzum. Then there was the second one that's called tzimtzum Adam Kadmon. The tzimtzum of Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon is literally translated as primordial man. But we're not talking obviously about man, about Adam. We're talking about the concept in a much more sublime level. That before any world was emanated from Hashem, there was in potential, just like an example can be given, like a seed that grows a tree. In the seed you have in potential, you have branches, you have leaves, and you have the fruits that are going to come out of this seed. But obviously, if you take the seed under a microscope, you're not going to see those branches and fruits. It's not in there. It's there in potential. So Adam Kadmon has the potential to the sfirot, the attributes, the kindness, the wisdom. All of this is only in potential there, which is the highest state of existence after the tzimtzum, and the primal thought that contains and is the source of all subsequent emanations and creations. And then there is the third type of tzimtzum, which is v'soid hadikna, and the esoteric doctrine of the tzimtzum of dikna. Dikna literally means the beard. So just like a beard, the hair grows. The hair has life to it, but the life in the hair is obviously a very contracted life. If you cut the hair, you're not going to feel pain. So the beard represents the holy light that comes after contractions. It is contracted to the point because after all the hair is connected to the source. That's why it grows, has life to it. But this is contracted that you don't see the direct connection. You don't feel the connection. So the life force that animates here is exceedingly attenuated to the point that cutting it causes no pain. Accordingly, the term dikna, literally beard, and se'arot, which means hair, are used to represent a certain form of tzimtzum. Says the Alter Rebbe, shesoid kol hatzimtzumim letzamtzem ha'oyer sheyislabesh b'bchinas kelim the yud sfiris. The underlying purpose of all the contractions is to condense the light in order to enable it to become enclosed within the vessels of the 10 spheres of the world of Atzilus. So there's a contractions that is meant to conceal, and there's contraction that is meant to reveal. Like when you want to teach a student, you have a bright idea that you want to teach this to a little child, you're not going to tell him everything because he's not going to understand. But you want to reveal, so you contract it. And this is in order to be enclosed into the vessels of Atzilus, of vessels of the 10 attributes of Atzilus. These vessels assume specific form of wisdom or kindness. By contrast, the divine light that permeates these vessels is essentially simple. They're not defined by any of the attributes. When through tzimtzum the vessels comes into being, and the light clothes itself within them and becomes fused with them, wisdom and kindness become one with God. And that is a unity that is beyond our understanding, as he'll say. He says the Alter Rebbe, Oz shaykh loima mashakos Rambam hu yedei vu amada vu yedua u yedei satzma v'chulu. It is only after the Ein Sof light becomes clothed within the vessels of Chabad that Maimonides' statement about the Holy One, blessed be He, is in his place. And He's the knower, He's the knowledge, and He's the knower. And by knowing Himself, He knows all creation. That can be said only after the tzimtzum, only when the light goes into the vessels of Atzilus. Lefi shebchines kelim the Atzilus nasim neshama v'chayis lebri yetzire asiyah ulechol asher b'hem. For the vessels of Atzilus become the soul and life force of the vessels of Beriya, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, and all the creatures therein. So by knowing Himself with the knowledge that is to be found in the vessels of Atzilus, He also knows all the worlds and creatures of Beriya, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, since they derive their life force from these vessels. So all this, however, can only come about after the various tzimtzumim have brought about the contraction of the light, enabling it to be vested in the vessels of Atzilus. But without these tzimtzumim, you cannot attribute to God any of those descriptions. However, without the aforesaid tzimtzum and investiture of the light in the vessels, it is not at all appropriate to say that He is the knower and He is the knowledge. Meaning the whole category of knowledge cannot be ascribed to God, even in so exalted a manner as in the statement that He is the knower. Even such a high level of knowledge cannot be ascribed to God. Why? Because He is beyond any term of knowledge. For He is not within the realm and domain of knowing and knowledge at all, not forbid. Hashem is way beyond it. It is infinitely elevated above even the level and the bounds of wisdom. For even the statement that he is the knower implies restricting God, so to speak, to one particular faculty, meaning wisdom, as distinct from, say, the attribute of kindness or mercy. God, however, utterly transcends all such bounds. Means to the extent that in relation to him, the level of wisdom is considered like the level of physical action. So before the note, the Alter Rebbe had said that the manner and nature of the flow and emanation, how and what, is known to the savants, to the scholars of Kabbalah. Meaning, it is they who understand how, from the Ein Sof light, that emanated the intellectual and emotive attributes, which even after their emanation are so completely fused with God that it can be said that he is the knowledge, and etc. The Alter Rebbe goes on to say that really it's not for us to understand, it's beyond us. And that level, we can only use the faith. Says the Alter Rebbe, now we are not concerned with esoteric matters, how the emanation of the spheres from the Ein Sof light came about, in the subsequent manner of their unity with him. But it is incumbent upon us to believe with complete faith matters that are revealed to us, and that he and his attributes, meaning the vessels and spheres, are one. So we cannot understand how it is one. That's why we take it with faith. Meaning the attribute of the Holy One, blessed be He, and His will, and His wisdom, and understanding, and knowledge are one with His essence and being. And who alone is exalted by infinite elevations above the level of wisdom and intellect and comprehension. And therefore, so therefore, since he totally transcends intellect and comprehension, so his union with the attribute which he emanated from himself is also beyond the realm of comprehension. Meaning it is impossible to understand how he unites with them. Rather, this may be apprehended only through faith. And that's why he says the Zohar calls the spheres, the attribute, the secret of faith. Why is it secret of faith? Because what we explained, that the attributes are one with the essence of Hashem himself, that is beyond understanding. In the Holy Zohar, therefore, the attributes of the Holy One, blessed be He, which are the spheres, are called the secret of faith, which is a faith that transcends the intellect. This concept cannot be grasped intellectually, but only through faith. This is the end of this chapter. And tomorrow we're going to start the next chapter, where the Alter Rebbe does attempt to give us some understanding in this concept. So this is the end of Mirazat Hashem. We shall see you tomorrow. Wishing you all a wonderful day. We should be reunited physically with the Rebbe with the coming of Mashiach. All the best.